Today's lecture is on History of Advertising in India. This is the continuation of the earlier session on the history of Indian advertising. To begin with, we'll start with the 1950 to 1960 duration, which is known as the overview. 15th August 1947 is a watershed in the political history. Newspapers flagged off the great day with poster headlines capturing images of national leaders, especially Nehru, making his tryst with destiny speech in the middle of the night. Advertising was not a profession in the public eye. Not too many people considered advertising to be glamorous, which is unbelievable today. People did not regard advertising to be important at all. In 1950s, professional competency in advertising developed in three major metro cities. Bombay, Madras and Calcutta had the infrastructure to provide advertising support. Proficiency in art, account servicing and media scheduling developed very slowly after that. The larger advertising agencies recruited young people and trained them to become successful professionals in advertising. The state of the Indian economy in 1950. Independence from the British rule led to a far-reaching change in the Indian society. Indian society had a larger proportion of unproductive consumers than the productive ones. Measured by life expectancy, literacy, housing, clothing and per capita availability of food grains, Indian society was materially a poor society. Now we'll discuss the media scene. Press was the most important medium during the period 1950 to 60. Newspaper advertisements were mostly black and white. But there was a magazine called the Reader's Digest which published color ads. Now this ad on Brylcreem. The Brylcreem advertisement is an early example of a testimonial ad using a celebrity. Tenzing Norgay, after climbing the Mount Everest, became a national celebrity. Brylcreem was quick to capitalize on his stature. They used Tenzing Norgay's picture in their advertisement. Eveready. Now this ad of Eveready battery and Jeevansathi torch became very popular in our country. These were early branded products that found customers in towns and villages because they served a real need. And what was the need? Electricity was unknown in villages back then and snake bites were common across the country. Hence, Jeevansathi torch became very popular in the country. Lux. Every soap company and every brand of soap from time immemorial has promised glowing skin or glowing beauty. Lux followed its international creative platform by positioning the brand as the soap used by film stars who have a glowing complexion. The concept covers both continuity and change. Continuity is in presenting the most popular film stars, while change is the natural change of people's preference as one film star fades out and the new one becomes the favorite. Bollywood has given Lux an unending reservoir of heroines through the ages. In the 1950s, Lux presented the popular film stars of the time. This advertisement of Lux was after the tremendous success of Pakiza, where Meena Kumari played the lead role. Now the period of the transition from 1960 to 1970. The decade of the 60s transited through the pain, war, food scarcity and rampant black marketing in everything that was available. The first advertising convention was held at the Indian Exchange Hall, Calcutta in 1960, where delegates throughout the country attended the 3-day session. Agencies started giving importance to layout and copy. Now the ad of Lifebuoy here shows a very glowing skin of the man and he was very happy taking bath with using Lifebuoy soap. The copy of this particular ad is very lengthy. Why? Because at that time the copywriters focused more on the copy. Savlon advertisement talks of killing germs. The interesting point to note in this particular advertisement is that the product is not positioned against the popular antiseptic Dettol, but it is shown as a brand for cuts, burns and nappy rash. The brand is specially positioned for pediatric use, as the visual suggests. Anacin. Anacin ran this campaign for a long time. The four fingers beside the pack has become one visual element over time, etched in the memory of those who suffer from headaches. This ad campaign was very successful back then. The basic problem with Indian advertising in the period from 1960s to the mid-1980s was that advertising agencies did not have media options, because at that time newspaper was the only medium of communication, as radio and television came much later. Every campaign was so newspaper centered that other media hardly received a second look. Air India and Amul were visible in hoardings rather than newspapers and magazines. Only these two brands, Air India and Amul, used hoardings instead of newspapers. Now we'll discuss about the advertising agencies during the 60s. Advertising in the 60s was mainly focused on three major metro cities: Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. Advertising was confined to local businesses like cottage industries. The agencies that dominated the Indian market were JWT, Bomas, Clarion, L.R. Swamy and Grant Advertising. Most advertisers desired the agencies to provide full service, which includes creative, media, public relations and event management. JWT was the biggest agency in the country in capitalized billing. Now these are the few ads from JWT. If we see the Brook Bond tea ad, it is very interesting to read the copy. The copy says, "People who insist on the best prefer Brook Bond tea. Why?" Now the copywriter has written an elaborate description of having advantage of taking Brook Bond tea. Now this one of Air India. It's a beautiful layout where the mascot puts up a hoarding and says all the airlines which takes off from Bombay to other international countries. So these two ads made by JWT was a hit. The Dunlop ad. Our children will know each other better. In this ad, they have promoted corporate social responsibility. They have developed something to aware the audience about children, about the importance of children to make a better country. Now, the period from 1970 to 1980, the growth period. Political and economic events that defined the decade of the 70s began evolving from the mid-1960s. The most significant event that was to shape the history of independent India was the breakup of the old Congress party. The fourth plan from 1969 to 1974 had the twin objectives of growth and self-reliance. For advertising, family planning became a very important part and visible part of the campaigns in press, radio and cinema. A consortium of leading ad agencies was roped in to improve upon the delivery of the campaign. The fifth five-year plan from 1974 to 1979 set its basic objectives as the eradication of poverty. It was also felt that a decrease in the rate of growth of the population was an important corollary. Advertising in any era reflects the general socio-economic condition of people living at the time, their hopes and aspirations. The decade of the 70s was not merely a continuation of the period that went before it in terms of products available or brands sold. Advertising of the 70s reflects the great social disruption that happened with the promulgation of emergency. The volume of advertising went up substantially between the beginning and at the end of the decade. The ad agencies of the 70s. In the 70s, HTA was the largest agency in Indian advertising with a dominant presence in all the metro cities. Agency business started changing in the 70s. Indian agencies were managed entirely by Indians. Previously, what happened in the previous decade, they used to hire professionals from the foreign agencies and trained the Indian agencies to become successful professionals. Bombay and Delhi proved promising in advertising business, but Calcutta lost the ground. In the 1970s and 80s, clients looked for a composite package of services from the ad agencies. Media planning and media execution evolved as two major fields. Media buying became the most important element in media services. A new development took root. For clients, the focus shifted. The emphasis was now on what bonus was the advertiser earning from the media for a particular campaign. Full-service ad agencies supported their clients with both public relations activities and advertising. Now this ad of Air India, where we see, Bhaiji, I am referring to the United States. For Uttar, Madhya and Andhra, you can take a train. A beautiful continuation of the lines by the copywriters of JWT and also with a touch of Hindi to it, because at that time there was a movement for the national language. Now the learning period, which is from the 1980s to the 1990s. The 80s marked a watershed in changing the taste and food habits. The 1980s brought about a considerable change in media exposure among Indians. Why? Because television grew and replaced newspapers as the primary medium for advertising campaigns. The decade of the 80s was a period of new learning for advertising professionals. A significant development along with the spread of television was the development of commercials in vernacular. Advertisers found good avenues of mass appeal with soap operas, and that's why the first soap opera in India, Hum Log, was sponsored by Lux. Film stars who had high popularity ratings modeled for big brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Bajaj, Titan, Tata Tea and the like. We have seen stars like Amir Khan, Shah Rukh Khan, Kajol, Rani Mukherjee acting as a celebrity endorsement for Coca-Cola, Pepsi. By the early 1980s, the main centers of advertising were Bombay, Delhi, Madras and Bangalore. Most of the leading ad agencies were headquartered in these cities. Calcutta, which remained a major industrial metro in the country till the mid-1970s, lost its sheen in the field of advertising. In the 1980s, agencies had more options to use color. They have shifted from the black and white era to the color era now. New magazines were launched with greater frequency. Better quality of printing paper was more widely available. There was constant modernization of offset printing. In newspapers, the newsprint quality is not so good, and that's why the quality or the caliber of the art directors were not noticed properly. But in magazines, the quality is very good, and that's why the creative output of the art directors and the copywriters was well known. This particular ad, crafted by India's first ad agency Dattarams. The ad focuses more on the visual and with a very catchy headline. The body copy is equally attractive. In this ad, it is shown as a family because at that time the government tried to promote family planning. This ad of BSA SLR, the headline connects with the World Cup. The BSA SLR brand rode on Kapil Dev over a long time. It presented Kapil Dev in films, in TV commercials and in press advertisements. The treatment of ad in this particular theme is very interesting. Philips was strong in branding in the 80s. The fun and excitement of lifestyle products is conveyed well in this particular ad of Philips. Philips connected well with the audience throughout our country. Now, the new age, 1990 to 2000. The decade of the 90s, leading to the new millennium, will remain one of the most discussed and debated in modern Indian history. Advertising conglomerates with offices in almost every rich country started looking at India. The profession of advertising was not challenged in our country anymore. Foreign tie-ups upheld the position of Indian ad agencies. JWT, Lintas, WPP Group, all are foreign agencies, and they started making business in India, feeling that Indian people are growing more to become advertising professionals. There has been a tremendous growth in interactive media. The internet and cell phones are the most used among all the new media. Indian advertising continued to be very colorful. Indian advertising went through a period of complete change at a very fast pace. From 2001 to the present time, Indian language advertising began to shape the impact of advertising, which was a major development. Among the FMCG brands, there were many new entrants in the market. The separation of creative and media became a permanent thing in our country. Advertisers began to observe the growth of social media, which gave them an opportunity to engage with the current and the prospective customers. Now we see more ads in social media. Why? Because the advertisers know my customers do not read newspapers and are not confined to television anymore. They are more into social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter and the like. Every brand or every company now try to make the ads in all the various media available. They do not only belong to the traditional media, they try and taste the social media platforms as well, and it is a huge success if they advertise in social media platforms. Creative is no longer confined to ideating in English and then translating into vernacular, because there are copywriters who are both expert in the English and vernacular language. Printing was improved immensely. Brochures and folders look beautiful nowadays. Radio has become a vibrant medium, and radio act as a very strong medium to educate the rural mass. For instance, if the advertiser of an HYV seeds wants to advertise a newly launched fertilizer in the market, they will definitely take help of radio as a medium of communication. Why? Because the target audience of this particular fertilizer are the farmers and they belong to the rural areas. For that, they will try to stick to radio as the most important communication medium for advertising a new brand of fertilizer. The social media is fast emerging as the future destination of both advertisers and the agencies. Now, all the agencies, they have a digital wing. They recruit people for writing for the digital platform. Advertising has really moved from product to brand building and now to positioning. Every brand nowadays try to make their own presence in the market. For instance, every brand, they will start developing their own campaign targeting the potential and the current customers. And brand positioning, they will try to again recreate its own campaign for the existing customers. Media outfits started as poor cousins of ad agencies in India. The initial phase lasted well past the middle of the first decade of the new millennium, but capable media experts gradually asserted their independence. Clients relied upon them more as the focus shifted from media planning to bulk media purchase. Advertisers started consulting media companies on a day-to-day basis as their operation led to quantifiable savings in media spent for advertisers. Digital media began to draw the attention of the advertisers. Specialized agencies emerged. These were small outfits to start with, but the multinational groups started buying up these companies so that they were not found wanting in the new arc of advertising. Indian advertising went through a period of complete change which started in the early 1990s and continued at a very fast pace till the end of 2010. Among the FMCG brands, there were many new entrants that broke the monopoly of niche ownership of markets enjoyed by Hindustan Unilever Limited and Procter & Gamble. Among the large organizations, ITC entered a wide array of markets, successfully competing with the old FMCG brands. On consumer durables as well, in older companies including Philips lost ground steadily as they were unable to cope with the aggressive marketing of Korean and Japanese companies. In advertising, the separation of creative and media became a permanent scenario. Large agencies restructured, medium to small agencies continued to offer full service to clients, but among major clients there were no takers for full service agencies. This total bifurcation has to be covered in a way that gives us the scope to discuss the important developments in creative and media separately. In short, advertising has truly developed from the black and white era to colorful and a more glamorous era that we see in today's advertising. The newspaper advertisements have developed more. The copy, the layouts have changed totally with the competition from the electronic media. Television commercials shows emotions which are truly acceptable with the potential customers. The radio jingles, the script writing for the radio jingles are truly amazing nowadays. And the social media has truly changed the face of Indian advertising with ads in Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram and the like. Now the ad agencies definitely they're ruling in the Indian market and it will be a booming industry.